Okay. Very good. We are live. Feel free to turn on your phone monitor so that you could also see if people are asking questions as well. Okay. And then I'm gonna do mine.
Awesome.
Cool. All right. How's your day?
Good.
Pretty busy?
So many things. Yeah, so many things for 24 hours. But that's what startup life is.
Of course, absolutely. So we got 32 seconds here, and then I'll cue you in. I'm just going to do a quick intro in the beginning, say hi to our subscribers,
Great.
and then I'll cue you as soon as that's all done, okay?
Awesome.
And then let me make sure. All right. So, how would you start a startup even without an investor? Let's go. Hey everyone, Zen here with another episode of Closed One. This is the noon edition. This is a place where founders learn startup sales while enjoying lunch. Today, we have Francisco Cornejo teaching us how to start a startup, and he will share his steps on how to get 1.6 million downloads in over 155 countries. But first, let me say hello to our new subscribers. So, hello, Huzefa. Welcome to the Close One channel. Abhinav, hey man, welcome. Good to see you. Lena Morris, what is going on? Thank you so much for all your comments. I appreciate them very much. Mike Darwin, welcome. Forever for you. Yes, I love it. You got 14 subscribers. I'll check out your channel. KZ Master Godlike Shadow. Oh, what a name. I have to check that out as well. Your lyrics, P or is it Poppy? Let me know in the comment below. Jessica Leone. Hey, I saw you in last week's live stream. Thank you so much for subscribing. I truly appreciate that. No New. And then we have Busenin Duniasi. Ooh, we're going worldwide here. Ooh, this name I cannot pronounce, but I thank you for joining us. I think it might be Russian. I'm not sure. I'll ask my friends. Nicholas Steerwalt, welcome. And then we have, Jessica Leone. And then I think that's it. Gabriela Garzo. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for subscribing. Without you, this channel would not exist, and you keep me motivated. You are the best part of my show. Thank you. To those of you who are new here, you know what to do. Click subscribe. Our special guest is Francisco Cornejo, CEO and founder of Storybook. He will talk about how to start a startup, how to get 1.6 million downloads in 155 countries, how to get number one app in the parent category. Ooh, that's an interesting one. How to launch in 60 countries, how to grow 600% in a pandemic. His mission is to create a better world by improving the physical and emotional health of thousands of children worldwide through Storybook. Please help me welcome Francisco Cornejo.
Hi, Sen. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Yeah, you made it seem like we have everything figured out, and we don't.
Oh,
I'm
we'll
happy
get
to
it.
share how the journey has been so far.
We will get into that. Absolutely. Definitely want to learn from you all of the lessons, all of the wisdoms that you could share us, and great tips that we could learn, of course. So let's start with our first question. And thank you so much for joining us, of course. We want to know, how did you start this startup? What was your journey like? How did it, you know, come into fruition?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think most startup founders have a similar story. We face this issue ourselves. Storybook basically helps babies and children to sleep better, relax, and spend more time with the quality time with their parents. And that's what we lacked and craved for when our kids were 3 and 1. Daniela, my co-founder, who is also my wife, that's another interesting story. And I moved to Australia a few years ago. Our kids were really young. We were alone, 16, 15 hour difference from home. And we struggled with our kids' sleep. And that's when Daniela came up with this combination of things. She was studying infant massage. And while she was practicing with her kids, she told them stories and played music. And that did a trick. Like, it changed entirely what our life was by then. It really solved something that it was really important for us. And yeah, that's when we found that aha moment. Like, there was nothing on the market like that. It was truly helping us, and we wanted to take that to more families. And that's what started everything. And now we are happy to see that it's also helping other families.
Wow. Oh, this is pretty cool. I am very intrigued. So, you and your wife had a personal problem. My question is, how are you uniquely qualified to solve it as parents? Like, do you have an engineering background? She has a masseuse background, right? Is that what you said earlier? And
Yeah.
where did you find all your resources? How did you start this awesome app?
Well, I think again, when you have the willingness and the passion to pursue something, things will line up. And we didn't start from scratch. We were lucky enough to meet and find an amazing co-founder that joined us from Australia. He was our mentor, and he has his office, and we worked from his office, and he really established all the setting for us to grow this idea into a product. And yeah, it was this combination of our past experience, our eagerness to improve as parents, and our curiosity to really put something together that there wasn't before. And Daniela, who is the heart and soul of the product, she's really creative. She is an entrepreneur, has an entrepreneurial heart, and my background is on marketing and business, so I think it was a good combination, and we managed to make it work.
Awesome. Okay, I have to ask, how did you find your co-founder? What was that dating process like?
Well, we got married before this idea, so yeah, I found it at home. But yeah, working together was something we didn't plan for. We didn't really thought of ourselves like putting a business of our own in this specific sector. It was something that just happened. And again, most of the startups found a problem, or that problem slaps in their faces. And that's what happens. We had a problem, it slapped on our faces, we were having a rough time. And through this combination of things that Daniela put together, and later she told me, what about an app that does this? We managed to help ourselves, our family, and then millions more.
Wow, we got to get Daniela on here because I really want to understand how she put the app together. You said there was a combination of like MVP, different integrations or plugins. Was it Zapier? Like, how did she build the first version of your app?
Well, she put together all the content side of things. As for the technology, I through my previous ventures, I knew a few developers. So we outsourced the technology from the beginning. We knew that the core of Storybook wasn't the sophisticated technology, but actually the content. So that's the expertise she brought. We started with outsourced developers, but as soon as Storybook launched on the marketplace and we saw the traction that it was gaining, we know we were in the long run. So we put together a team. We started with a 5 people team. Now we are 20.
20, great. The very beginning, the outsourcing part. Did you use Upwork? Did you use like Fiverr? Like what was your sources? What kind of tips can you give new founders who are aspiring to build their first version of their app if they have an aha moment the way you did?
Yeah, well, we didn't use Fiverr or any of that, although great resources, and we have used them in the past for other things. We knew people, and that's one of the main takeaways from this startup career is you got to get connected. You have to go to the networking events, online, in person. You have to connect with people because you never know who might open a door for you, who might be a great freelancer, or who might, I don't know, collaborate with you at some stage. So luckily I knew people and we started with them, but over the last couple of years, we have gone to freelancing sites for different things, from translations to even some strategy. And our first version of our data center and our analytics was outsourced. Then we managed to hire that in-house. But yeah, it's a great place to start. You don't need too much money to get started through these freelancing sites.
So you bootstrapped this whole first version of your app?
Yeah, self-invested all the way to the beginning of this year. So
Yeah.
we actually now we have investors,
I saw.
but getting to the first 800 or 700,000 downloads, it was pretty much an effort because we invested into this. But more than that, it was just walking towards the pit and knowing that we are going against the probabilities and the odds are against every startup founder. But we pushed through and we managed to find great traction and a great response. And then amazing investors who believed in us and keep believing in us. And now 1.6 million downloads and a growing user base. Later, we know that we're on the right track.
Yes, there's a lot to unpack. Let's try to go back into that very beginning because a lot of our audience, they're aspiring entrepreneurs. They're probably starting out as consultants and they have these services and they're trying to figure out, okay, how do we productize? Like if I did build an app, what steps would I take? And so I want to go back to this outsourcing thing. What are the 3 tips, actionable tips, like valuable tips that you wish you knew, like you could tell yourself, the younger version of yourself? These are the 3 things you should have done in order to get this out there a lot faster and get to 1.6 million downloads, even without a seed funding.
Yeah. The number one, we talk to people, get connected, ask for advice. Looking back, we probably lost a year of Storybook because we didn't started with the right business model. And it was obvious and it was there and lots of people already took that path and lots of people could advise us. but we were trying to do it on our own without looking for advice nor money. So just narrow it down to the first thing when you go even to find yourself a freelancer, talk to someone you value their experience first, and try to see how to approach that. Maybe you're looking at a freelancer for the wrong reasons. Maybe you're trying to get an app, and you might not need an app yet, like a mobile app. Sometimes people are trying to create the whole website and the whole finalized product when Facebook group would have been enough to start, or a Slack channel. There's so many ways you can create a business or a community that don't necessarily involve money or fancy technology. So that's the first thing I would say. It's definitely ask for advice. LinkedIn is a great way of reaching out to savvier people than we are, and getting advice. So once all the advice points you to, yes, you have to hire that particular expertise in a freelancing site. I would say, again, start small. Don't risk your budget if you don't know the person yet. Even though they might have great reviews, the fit is not always there. You might hire someone who is amazing at something, but sometimes there's no fit. Yeah, like person to person, you don't work together. So it's better to start with a small project. And if that works, then aim for higher. So I don't know if maybe those are the two main ones. I don't know if I have another one.
Oh, you gave three great ones. The first is ask for advice and talk to your users. That's the only way you'll know what a good business model would be. The second, to recap, use Facebook group, use Slack. They're free. They have free versions. Build your community, build an audience. Number three, LinkedIn. Reach out to savvy professionals. See, you're giving great tips already. These are all very, very actionable. If you are an entrepreneur, you should definitely do these top three things. And then you said, how do you to find fit? Now my question, to get 3 tips to find fit. What are some of your guiding principles? Let's just say 3 things that you always look for to find fit for Storybook. Maybe your culture, or just the way you do things. Yeah, take it away.
I think if this is for an investor or a employee, or even for partnerships, the main thing we find, or we try to find, is if we are aligned in our values. If it is for them as important as for us to really help families, and try to connect, try to help parents to connect with their kids. I think that's our ultimate goal. We call this parent truly connect with their kids and get to know them and get to bond with them. So if that's something that it's in their agenda, and that's something that really they are passionate about that, then we can work with that. That's align yourself in values. That will be the number one. Then again, I would approach this as working with a freelancer again, but start small. Some of the people now we have in the team full time started with us with just a couple of hours a week to see if things worked. Or we started with a project. Let's build this project, and after that, come on and work with us. So you don't need to fully commit if you're not ready to commit. And probably the last one would be, I don't know. It's the most important thing is to be honest, and start any relationship, any partnership, it has to start based on honesty. If there's no honesty, it's gonna fall at some point. So maybe that's another good advice.
Definitely. So to recap, to find fit, in order to start your startup, you need to be able to recruit properly. And to start recruiting, you need to have your values. You need to know your values. And for Storybook, it's helping families to have that togetherness, that bond with your kids. Another one would be to start a project, work a couple hours a week, versus committing full time, which is kind of daunting for startups, really. That's a very hard thing because startups, by its very nature, they don't really have that kind of security. And so I vouch for this as well, a couple hours a week. And then finally, honesty. That's great tips. You can't build a startup without honesty. That just would, the cookie will crumble.
Yeah, well, and something to add in on that point, probably the most important one, and it's tied to all the others. It's you have to be really passionate about the problem you're trying to fix. Building a startup is really hard. It's harder than it looks. It's harder than a corporate job. There's gonna be lots of uncertainty, and you'll be facing the pit more time than you want. So you better be really passionate about what you're doing, because sometimes the sales won't be there, the people won't be there, the investors won't be there. But as long as you feel that you're uh, making progress towards your purpose, then you will have the energy to keep working. So I think that's probably the most important one.
Francisco, this tip, I hear it a lot, but I think in your situation, I want to break it down a little bit more because being passionate, like you could just say, yeah, I'm passionate. For me, I'm passionate about sales, right? But for you, you're passionate about the problem you're solving because you're a parent. Like
Mhm.
you had the problem. You wake up at 2 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m. in the morning, 4 a.m. This literally keeps you up at night. When
Yeah.
they ask you what keeps you up at night, it's making my
Yeah.
baby happy. And I think
Yeah.
that kind of passion, like the word gets thrown out so much, and just be like, for the audience out there, be so careful about this word passion. It has to be a very deep emotional attachment that you want to solve in order to keep fighting for that particular solution. And so I really love this tip a lot. And so it's a lot of self discovery for sure, but great
Yeah.
tip. I'm going to go into the next question here. How did you grow 600% during a pandemic?
Well, it's hard to answer that without like telling the whole story, but I think
Tell us.
I will try to summarize. But I think we were ready at the right time. We started to get, and we did, obviously, nobody knew that the world was going to change. But back in November 2019, by then we were already working pretty much remote. We had a small office back in Ecuador. That's where most of the team is. And we were going there every now and then, but the team wasn't really committed to full-time work uh, on the office. We were already remote working, and we changed the business model to something much more scalable. Before that, it was a paper download app. Um,
Paper down.
Lots of a big entry barrier. You have to pay even before try it. And we changed that. So we started to see the growth in November, in December, in January, in February, and then the pandemic hit. So we were in the right sector. Technology grew a lot, and Storybook as a product, and we were lucky enough to be able to help parents who were struggling to get their kids to sleep, to ease anxiety. And nobody really thought of this when the pandemic really started, but kids weren't used to hear about people dying every day, like who died yesterday, or more people are dying, or the number of cases we were talking about in a daily basis. And kids, they shouldn't be normalizing that kind of conversation. And for them, there was a lot of stress, sleep problems. There's a lot of studies on how this affected emotions and sleep patterns. And Storybook was there to help them. So we were lucky enough to be able to help cope through those difficult times. But again, we were ready. We were ready to scale. We already had a process in place. We had a scalable business model. We already had presence in several countries, in 3 languages. So we were ready when the wave hit. We knew how to cope with that. So I guess that's the main thing. And we're still in the pandemic. No one knows how this will turn out, but we're still really happy and accomplished to know that we get reviews every day of parents telling us the app is really helping my kids. And that's the fuel that you need to know that you're in the right place. You're helping, your product is delivering value. even if it's a small or a medium a community within your user base, there's people who really values what we do. So ultimately, that's the key reason why we grew.
Absolutely. Great problem to solve, right timing, and you were just prepared to scale. You were able to handle all of the downloads that was about to happen. Um,
Yeah.
that brings us to our next question because you said you had about 3 languages. This is pretty cool. One of my favorite topics, actually. How do you launch in over 60 countries?
Mm. We really didn't plan for that. That was our organic expansion. We started with Spanish and English. Spanish, my first language. All of the team, the founding team is from Ecuador, and now we have people from Argentina and Colombia and Mexico and Spain. But our main language is Spanish and English because we knew from day one that we wanted to conquer the US. So we started with those 2 languages, and shortly after that, we added Portuguese because we thought it was a great opportunity. Brazil is close to Ecuador. We knew the culture, so it made sense for us. It's a broadly speaking language, and something that is really cool about Storybook is that it's an audio-based app. We don't have video for the kids. We want Storybook to be screenless, and the clever thing about that is that audio is much more cheaper than video. So translating audio, it's way easier than video, and yeah, so that's why we went for those 3 languages. And then it was a surprise to us to see that we started to get downloads in Japan, in New Zealand, in India, in I don't know, everywhere, in Africa, in North Europe, and Eastern Europe, and in everywhere in South America. So even though we only have those 3 languages, that proved us that then there's a worldwide need for what we do, despite of cultures and how we raises their kids differently. But despite of that, regardless of that, throughout the world, Storybook was spreading. So again, the business model was scalable. The parenting category, it's crowded on the app stores, but we had a great momentum when the story of how Storybook was created and the personal story of Daniela went viral, and that helped to push us through the first places of the Play Store and the App Store.
Wow. Wow. So for we do have a few app folks founders that are building. I won't mention their names, but what and how or what tools did you use to get into the 3 countries for the audio side? And then do you also translate your user interface of the app, or is it just the audio part?
Yeah, well, we do translate the interface. Again, we started with our own connections. Now we have Spanish from Spain, so Spaniard Spanish. And that we found through a freelancing site. That's the one person we found through these sites. Now that I recall, but the other 3, Spanish is Daniela. She's actually the voice actress, my co-founder and wife, and voice actress. Wear so many hats. And for the English, it was a person we knew. She's an actress too, from I don't recall which state she's from, but she's from the US. And we met her in Ecuador, a random event, and we were lucky to, again, be ready to make that connection and knew how to tap into that potential later on. And Portuguese, again, asking for help. I had a friend who has a startup, and he knew Brazil, so I told him, "Do you know someone who might help us?" And he pointed someone out. So yeah, connections, freelancing. You have both things there.
There you go, connections and freelancing. So a lot of your tips point to people as possible.
Yeah.
Before I ask my last question, because we're a little over on our time, where can people find you?
Well, chances are, depending on the country you are, but in most countries, if you look for a Storybook in the App Store or Google Play, you will find us as the first option. And of course, you can visit our site, storybook-app.com. or follow us on social media. If you search Storybook, you will find us. So yeah,
That's awesome.
and please feel free to reach out through LinkedIn if these 2 cents were helpful in any way, shape, or form, or if my experience can be helpful for someone. Feel free to reach out. Happy to answer any other question.
Amazing. So, our last question and the topic of this entire show is how do you start a startup even without an investor? Actually, here, which I'll recap in another video. Now, we want to know, how does Francisco close deals in the terms of how did Francisco close his seed funding after all of this
Ah,
great results?
Wonderful. That's, I think, honesty. I think the honest desire of add value and yeah, trying to give as much value as I can to the other party. If that's an investor, I will do my best to make that money grow as much as I can. If that's a partner, I will do my best to make sure that that partnership is as valuable for them as it is for us. So it's that, giving value in an honest way, like trying to approach things on a very transparent fashion.
Wow. Give value in a very honest way. Be transparent. So this is the best way to close deals, even with
Yeah.
investors or just clients alone. If Francisco ever tries to go enterprise with his app. So that is
Yeah.
it. We covered everything. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, this was really fun.
Awesome. Until next time, everyone, keep on closing. Peace. Bye.
Bye bye.